Okay, so this is Miss Heisenbuttle, and today I'm going to talk about what some of the parts are and how to use them. So when we're doing robotics, a pair of needle nose pliers can be extremely useful for pulling things apart, moving things, holding things in tight spaces. There's a million different ways to use these. What we don't do is we don't bend stuff with them. They're mostly for picking up small pieces. I also have some of these 3/32 Allen keys. These are really long, which is really nice when you have to go down inside of a part or what have you. They can be really handy, and this T-handle in the end is very helpful. Again, this is a 3/32. It's exactly the same as this. Just one of them is long and one is short. This is a 5/64 Allen key, and so this would be like one of our shaft collars, and you loosen the key, or you loosen the screw here, just turning the key. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I know, hopefully you already know that, but these are regular wrenches, and they are used for holding on to things like nuts. When you're trying to tighten something, you can hold on to it with the regular wrench and then tighten with the Allen key. That works really well. We don't use these a massive amount, but you are going to want one in your bin. The other thing, this guy, whoops, right here, this is a magnetic bowl, and all of my metal screws and all my metal nuts, my caps nuts here, are all sticking in here, so I can, whoa, turn it upside down, and only, as I'm sure you noticed, only the aluminum stuff came out. Why? Because aluminum is non-magnetic. So because the aluminum isn't magnetic, it won't stick to the bowls, but it's still a good way to hold on to your screws and nuts so that they don't go everywhere and don't end up on the carpet and get vacuumed up. We have two different kinds of shaft collars. You're going to want some of those when you grab stuff for your box. You're going to want a set of axles or shafts. I call them axles. You can call them shafts if you want to. I don't care. But you're going to want different sizes. We have really super long ones. Don't grab those unless you actually need one, because they're really easy to bend, and then you get to buy me new ones, because they don't work as axles anymore if you bend them all up. So you're going to want some of those. You're also going to want some metal parts. Pick that up. So these are some of our metal sheets that we have. We have them in different sizes. This is the middle-sized sheet. We also have one that's a third again as long, and then we have ones that are about a third as small. So you're going to want some of those. Usually people want a winch box for something. This is a small winch box or a pulley box. We use these a lot when we make our rack and pinions and our, I think it's mostly just the rack and pinions. But some people like to use them just to hold stuff together. Bevel gears fit nicely in one of these. We also have bigger versions of the winch box, which can be very, very useful. Gussets are small metal pieces that hold things together so that you can screw them together without having to necessarily have a face that has a hole in it. So these I could just put together and screw down here. Screw on one side, caps nut on the other. But I could also attach this here and then have it line up right here against something else so that it's hanging off like a shelf. So I could definitely do that. I always want to have a few gussets. The other thing you want to make sure is when you're screwing stuff together, you'll notice we have really long and really short screws. We have all sorts of different kinds of screws. So one of the things that I always tell people, there's a really small one, is use the length of screw that best suits what you're doing. So if you are trying to attach two things that are spaced out really far apart, you might need this guy. If you don't use it. Why? Because it's going to get in your way later. 9 times out of 10, you end up having to take it off and put on a smaller screw. Just because bigger ones stick out from stuff. So if I use this, now I have this thing in the way, which is going to make it really hard to put anything over here. So generally speaking, use a small screw if you can get away with it, rather than a longer one. So for example, this one, the way you put the caps nut on, I just spin it, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and then once I get it finger tight, then I put the Allen key in and tighten it up. Now it's not going anywhere. To undo it is exactly the opposite. You get it loose and then you hold on to the nut and just spin your Allen key and it just pulls the screw right out of the caps nut. Okay, so that's how you use some of our basic equipment.